There's a primal force pulsing within every cell of your body right now. An energy so potent, the ancients revere it as divine, so transformative that Napoleon Hill considered it the secret behind the history's greatest minds. Yet, you're likely wasting it every day, dissipating the fuel of your greatness through a bit modern society as normalist as harmless. Let me ask you a question that might deeply unsettle you. What if I told you that every time you unnecessarily ejaculate, you're literally draining the magnetism that would make women naturally gravitate towards you, effortlessly, without cheesy pickup lines, without pretending to be someone you're not? This isn't another superficial conversation about relationships or cheap self-help. We're venturing into territory most men wouldn't dare explore, as it requires confronting uncomfortable truths about your own nature and acknowledging that you might have spent years sabotaging your own power without even realizing it. What I'm about to share isn't empty motivational theory, but a profound understanding of how male sexual energy, when consciously conserved and transmuted, becomes the foundation of inexplicable magnetism, a presence that commands rooms, a charisma that needs no words to communicate. Napoleon Hill, in his decades of research on history's most successful men, discovered something modern society deliberately obscures. Sexual energy is the most powerful creative force in the human universe. It fuels not only procreation but every form of elevated creation. It's the same energy that drives the artist to create their masterpiece, the entrepreneur to build their empire, the leader to inspire crowds. When you truly understand this, you realize that every wasted ejaculation is literally an act of self-betrayal, a voluntary surrender of your life force to the void. But modern society, in its perverse wisdom, has completely inverted this understanding. We're conditioned to believe that sexual urges should be satisfied immediately, like hunger or thirst. We're bombarded with the message that masturbation is healthy, natural, necessary. Experts tell us to release, to let go of tension, to not suppress our natural urges. And so, millions of men spend their entire lives in a vicious cycle of arousal and dissipation, never questioning why they feel chronically unmotivated, why they struggle to stay focused, why they seem invisible to the women they desire. What these experts don't understand, or deliberately omit, is that there's a vast difference between repression and transmutation. Repression is denial, pushing down, pretending the urge doesn't exist. Transmutation is pure alchemy. It's taking that raw, fiery energy and consciously transforming it into something higher. It's like taking coal and through controlled pressure and heat, transforming it into a diamond. The energy remains the same in its essence, but its form and power are completely transfigured. When a man begins practicing conscious semen retention, something extraordinary happens on levels modern science has only begun to scratch the surface of. First, there are the obvious biochemical changes. Testosterone levels stabilize and often increase. Physical energy intensifies. Mental clarity sharpens. But that's just the surface layer of a much deeper transformation. What truly happens is a complete reorganization of your energetic signature, a recalibration of your personal magnetic field. Think of it this way. Every man emits a specific frequency, a vibration that silently communicates who he is to the world around him. This frequency is composed of a myriad of subtle factors: his posture, his gaze, the rhythm of his breath, the quality of his presence, the density of his attention. When you're constantly dissipating your sexual energy, this frequency becomes scattered, weak, inconsistent. It's like trying to tune into a radio station with a very weak signal. The message gets lost in the static. But when you conserve that energy and learn to channel it consciously, your frequency becomes crystalline. You become like a powerful broadcast tower emitting a clear, penetrating signal. And women, being naturally more sensitive to these subtle frequencies, begin to pick it up at distances you never imagined possible. They can't consciously explain what they feel, but they know there's something different about you, something magnetic, something that draws them in without understanding exactly why. This is why some men seem to attract women effortlessly. It's not because they're physically more attractive or because they've mastered sophisticated seduction techniques. It's because they radiate a quality of presence that's fundamentally different. They possess what the ancients called hojas, an inner light that shines through their eyes, a magnetism that precedes their words, a silent authority that needs no proof. Napoleon Hill observed this phenomenon repeatedly in his studies. He noticed that the most successful and influential men often possessed what he called transmuted sexual magnetism. They had learned to channel their libidinal energy towards creative and ambitious pursuits, and this manifested in an irresistible presence that affected not only women, but everyone around them. Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Napoleon Bonaparte, all these men intuitively understood the power of sexual transmutation. Here's where the journey truly gets challenging, where we separate the men genuinely committed to their evolution from those seeking only superficial results. Seminal retention isn't simply a matter of willpower or mechanical discipline. It's a process of inner alchemy that demands you confront aspects of yourself you may have avoided your entire life. It's a journey through your own psychological shadow, through your deepest unconscious patterns, through the emotional wounds you've been trying to numb with instant gratification. When you stop using masturbation and ejaculation as an escape, as an anesthetic, as a way to avoid your most intense feelings, something profound is forced to the surface. You begin to feel with an intensity that can be initially overwhelming. The emotions you were suppressing through sexual dissipation begin to emerge. The anxiety you were medicating with orgasms begins to show itself in its raw form. The anger you were dispersing through physical release begins to concentrate into its original potency. And it's precisely at this point that most men give up. They interpret this emotional intensification as a sign that something is wrong, that retention is harmful, that they need to release to return to their previous state of comfortable numbness. But this is exactly the moment when true transformation begins. This intensity isn't a problem to be solved. It's the fuel for your transmutation. Imagine you've spent years living in a room with windows covered by heavy curtains. You've grown accustomed to the dimness, the filtered light, the limited view. When you finally remove the curtains and sunlight bursts into the room, the initial intensity is almost unbearable. Your eyes water. You feel like pulling the curtains back, returning to the safety of familiar dimness. But if you stay there, if you allow your eyes to gradually adjust, you discover a world of colors and details you didn't even know existed. The same thing happens when you stop dissipating your sexual energy. Initially, the intensity of life without that constant escape can seem overwhelming. But as you learn to remain present with this energy, to consciously channel it, to transform it into focus and creativity, you discover reserves of power you never suspected you possessed. Your concentration multiplies. Your creativity explodes. Your confidence becomes unshakable because it's no longer based on external validation, but on the inner certainty that you are consciously conserving and directing your life force. And it's this inner transformation that women instinctively perceive. They aren't responding to some trick or technique. They are responding to the presence of a man who has mastered himself, who isn't a slave to his impulses, who possesses a quality of attention and focus that has become rare in the modern world. It's like the difference between a flickering candle in the wind and a steady, bright flame protected by glass. Both are fire, but the quality of the light is completely different. This process of transmutation works through what Napoleon Hill called the conscious redirection of energy. Instead of allowing the sexual impulse to follow its natural course of arousal release depletion, you intercept that energy at the moment of its peak intensity and redirect it towards creative or ambitious goals. You take the same force that would drive you towards orgasm and channel it into your work, your projects, your relationships, your personal evolution. But here's the most subtle and powerful aspect of this practice. When you do this consistently, you're not just conserving energy, you're training your consciousness to operate on a completely different level. You're developing the ability to be fully present with intensity without needing to escape through discharge. You're cultivating what the ancients call power of endurance, the ability to sustain heightened states of consciousness and energy without impulsively dissipating them. This ability translates into every aspect of your life. In conversations, you become capable of sustaining deep attention without distraction. In business, you develop the patience and focus necessary for long-term projects. In relationships, you become capable of genuine intimacy because you're not constantly seeking escape through immediate sexual gratification. And women, on a profoundly instinctive level, recognize this quality of sustained presence as an indicator of genuine masculine maturity. You need to understand that we're talking about something much deeper than physical attraction or sexual chemistry. We're talking about a form of magnetism that operates on the archetypal level, that touches primordial aspects of the feminine psyche that have been shaped by millions of years of evolution. On an unconscious level, women are constantly evaluating the men around them, looking for signs of strength, stability, capacity for protection and provision. And one of the subtlest, yet most powerful, indicators of this quality is the presence of a man who demonstrates genuine self-mastery. If you're wondering how to implement this transformation in your own life, I need to be brutally honest with you. There are no shortcuts or quick fixes. This is a journey of months and years, not days or weeks. It's a process of completely rebuilding your relationship with your own sexual energy, with your impulses, with your deepest emotions. And most men don't have the discipline or the long-term vision necessary to walk this path to the end. Before we delve deeper into this transformative journey, you need to pause for something important. If this content resonates with you, if you feel you've finally found someone who understands the true depths of this issue, I want to invite you to join our community. Hit the subscribe button now and turn on notifications, because what I share on this channel isn't found anywhere else. This isn't just personal development. It's a continuous exploration of the deepest secrets of masculine transformation. Based on decades of study of the principles Napoleon Hill uncovered and that great spiritual masters have taught. Each video is a piece of a larger puzzle, a facet of an understanding that can literally transform your life. But this community only grows when men committed to genuine self-evolution decided to be a part of it. So, if you're serious about unlocking your true masculine potential, subscribe now, because what comes next will challenge everything you thought you knew about personal power and magnetism. The first phase of this journey involves what we could call energetic detoxification. For years, maybe decades, you've conditioned your nervous system to operate in cycles of arousal discharge. Your neurochemistry has adapted to these patterns. Your brain has developed neural pathways that associate sexual tension with the need for immediate release. Breaking these patterns isn't simply a matter of intellectual decision. It's a fundamental restructuring of your physiology and psychology. In the first days and weeks, you may experience what advanced practitioners call symptoms of awakening. There might be increased anxiety, difficulty sleeping, vivid dreams, mood swings. This isn't evidence that something is wrong. It's evidence that something is starting to get right. Your body is adjusting to a new way of processing and utilizing sexual energy. During this phase, it's crucial that you develop what I call witness presence. Instead of fully identifying with the impulses and sensations that arise, you learn to observe them with a quality of detached attention. You become like a scientist studying a fascinating phenomenon, rather than a victim being dragged along by incomprehensible forces. This shift in perspective is fundamental because it transforms impulses that don't seem irresistible into objects of consciousness that you can examine, understand, and eventually direct. As you progress, you'll begin to notice subtle yet profound changes in your presence. Your gaze becomes more penetrating, more steady. Your voice develops a resonant quality that wasn't there before. Your posture becomes naturally more upright, more expansive. These aren't changes you force or simulate. They emerge organically when you stop constantly leaking energy and allow it to accumulate and focus. But the most significant transformation happens at the level of your relationship with time and goals. When you're no longer living from impulse to impulse, from discharge to discharge, you develop a natural longer perspective. Projects that don't seem daunting or impossible begin to seem not only feasible, but inevitable. You develop the ability to sustain effort and attention for much longer periods because you're not constantly dissipating the energy that fuels your persistence. And it's at this point that magnetism truly begins to manifest. Women begin to notice something different about you, long before you even fully realize the extent of the transformation. They may not be able to articulate what they feel, but they know there's a quality in your presence that affects them inexplicably. It's as if you've developed a kind of personal gravity that attracts attention and interest completely naturally. This attraction isn't based on physical appearance or social status, although those factors may be amplified by your new presence. It's based on something much more fundamental, the unconscious perception that you are a man who possesses genuine self-mastery. In a world where most men live at the mercy of their immediate impulses, a man who demonstrates conscious control over his most primal energy automatically becomes intriguing and attractive. But this is where many men make a crucial mistake. They start using semen retention as another seduction technique, another strategy to get women. And when they do that, they completely miss the point. The genuine magnetism that emerges from sexual transmutation cannot be manufactured or intentionally directed for manipulative purposes. It's a natural byproduct of a higher state of being, not a tool to achieve specific results. When you approach semen retention with the mindset of, I'm going to do this to attract women, you're operating from the same paradigm of lack and need that characterized your previous life. You're still trying to fill an inner void through external validation. The true transformation happens when you practice transmutation for its own sake, for the personal growth it provides, for the expansion of consciousness it enables. It's only when you stop seeking attraction that it begins to arise naturally. It's only when you become genuinely independent of female validation that women begin to feel naturally drawn to your presence. This is a paradox that confuses many men, but it's fundamental to understand. Authentic magnetism is always a byproduct of personal integration, never a targeted goal. Sexual transmutation also awakens what Jung called the anima, the unconscious feminine dimension of the masculine psyche. When you stop projecting your sexual energy externally in a compulsive way, you're forced to find that energy internally, to integrate aspects of yourself that you may have ignored. This results in a more complete, more integrated presence, which women perceive as genuine emotional maturity. This integration also manifests as an expanded capacity for genuine intimacy. When you're no longer addicted to the cycle of arousal release, you become capable of experiencing sexual connection as something far deeper and more meaningful than mere impulsive gratification. You develop the ability to be fully present during intimacy, to sustain deep emotional and energetic connection, to experience sex as an act of spiritual communion, rather than just physical release. Women, being naturally more oriented towards emotional connection and genuine intimacy, respond powerfully to this quality of presence. They feel safe to open up more deeply, to reveal more vulnerable aspects of themselves, because they perceive that you have the capacity to sustain and honor that vulnerability without needing to consume it through immediate sexual gratification. This is perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of sexual transmutation. It completely transforms your relationship with pleasure. Instead of seeking pleasure as an escape from reality, you begin to experience pleasure as a natural dimension of being fully present in reality. Instead of needing to get pleasure through external stimuli, you develop the ability to generate pleasurable states internally through the quality of your attention and presence. This shift is reflected in all aspects of your life. You begin to find deep pleasure in activities you once considered mundane or boring. Work becomes a form of creative expression. Conversations become opportunities for genuine connection. Even simple activities like walking or eating become richer and more satisfying experiences. And it's this quality of pleasurable presence, this ability to find deep satisfaction in immediate experience, that women find irresistibly attractive. They are naturally drawn to men who radiate inner contentment, who don't need constant external stimulation to feel good about themselves. But the journey of sexual transmutation also brings unique challenges. You need to be prepared to face. There will be moments of intense temptation, periods where every fiber of your being will scream for you to return to old patterns. There will be nights where the accumulated sexual energy feels unbearable, where you'll question whether it's worth continuing. It's in these moments that you'll discover what you're truly made of. It's in these moments that you'll have the opportunity to develop a quality of inner strength that simply cannot be developed in any other way. Every time you choose to remain present with intensity instead of escaping through discharge, you are literally strengthening your ability to handle any challenge life may throw your way. This inner strength becomes visible to everyone around you, but especially to women who possess a natural sensitivity to detect the presence or absence of genuine strength in men. They may not consciously understand what they perceive in you, but they intuitively know they are in the presence of someone who has developed a real self-mastery, not just the appearance of control. Sexual transmutation also awakens what we might call expanded vision. When you stop living from impulse to impulse, you naturally develop a broader perspective on your life and your goals. You begin to see patterns and connections that previously went unnoticed. You develop a sharper intuition about people and situations. Your ability to make decisions becomes clearer and more precise. This expansion of consciousness translates into a more magnetic presence because you become someone who operates from a higher perspective. Women are naturally drawn to men who demonstrate wisdom and vision, who seem to have access to a deeper understanding of life. As the practice deepens, you may begin to experience what ancient texts describe as hojas, a refined form of vital energy that manifests as a subtle but perceptible glow around your presence. This is not esoteric fantasy, but an energetic reality that can be developed through consistent practice of sexual transmutation. Hojas manifests in various ways. Your eyes develop a quality of light that people notice immediately. Your voice carries a resonance that penetrates more deeply into the consciousness of listeners. Your physical presence becomes more magnetic, causing people to feel naturally drawn to be near you. Women are particularly sensitive to this quality of hojas because it signals, on a deep evolutionary level, the presence of a high-quality male partner. It's not just about sexual attraction, it's about the unconscious recognition that you've developed qualities of character and inner strength that indicate capacity for protection, provision, and leadership. But perhaps the most transformative aspect of sexual transmutation is how it completely alters your relationship with fear. When you develop the ability to remain present with intense sexual energy without needing to compulsively dissipate it, you are essentially developing the ability to remain present with any form of intensity. This includes fears, anxieties, anger, sadness, all the emotions that most people spend their lives trying to avoid or suppress. This ability to be present with the totality of human experience without needing to escape or distract yourself is perhaps the most attractive quality a human being can develop. This is what the great spiritual leaders and the most magnetic individuals in history had in common: the ability to remain centered and present even in the most challenging circumstances. And when women perceive this quality in you, when they sense that you are someone who won't run from emotional intensity, who won't need constant distractions, who can sustain stable presence even during emotional storms, they feel naturally safe to open up in your presence. This feeling of emotional safety is one of the most powerful factors in female attraction. The journey of sexual transmutation is fundamentally a journey back to your original power. It's a process of reclaiming aspects of yourself that have been conditioned out of you by modern society. It's a reconnection with the life force that has always been present, but that you've learned to squander through unconscious habits. When you finally understand this completely, when you realize that the magnetism you've always sought externally has actually always been available internally, something fundamental shifts in your relationship with the world. You stop seeking validation and begin radiating value. You stop trying to impress and simply allow your authentic presence to speak for itself. And it's this transformation from seeker to radiator that marks the difference between a man who tries to attract women and a man who simply attracts women naturally through who he has become. Attraction says, stobe, something do, on becomes something you are. The ultimate truth about sexual transmutation is that it's not really about women, sex, or relationships. It's about the complete reclamation of your personal power. It's about becoming the most integrated, present, magnetic version of yourself. It's about discovering that you've always had access to reserves of energy, creativity, and presence that you were simply squandering through unconscious habits. When you truly master your sexual energy, not through repression, but through conscious transmutation, you become the architect of your own presence. You develop the ability to radiate specific qualities of energy based on how you choose to channel and direct your life force. You become, literally, a human magnet, operating from precise energetic principles. The journey never ends. Each day offers new opportunities to deepen this practice, to refine your understanding, to expand your capacity to transform raw energy into conscious expression. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to strengthen your capacity for transmutation. Every temptation becomes an opportunity to demonstrate self-mastery. The man who completes this journey, or at least sincerely commits to it, is no longer the same man who began. He has developed a presence that transcends superficial techniques or strategies. He has become genuinely magnetic, not because he learned how to attract women, but because he became the kind of man who naturally attracts everything valuable in life, including, but not limited to, the attention and interest of high-quality women. This is the promise and power of sexual transmutation, not merely superficial change, but fundamental transformation. Not just temporary results, but a complete recalibration of who you are and how you operate in the world. It's the path back to your original power, your authentic presence, the magnetism that has always been your birthright. The question that remains is simply, are you ready to begin this journey? Are you willing to abandon the familiar patterns that keep you small in favor of the unknown greatness that awaits on the other side of your comfort zone? The power has always been within you. Now you have the keys to unlock it.